Dum 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 dum
Space between, space between, space between. Space between.
What's going on? It is the Space Between podcast where we talk about the space between life and our passion and business, what's happening now and what's happening next. I'm going to speed through this shit to get to my friend, my guest. But first, I'm Pat Shand, and I want to talk to you guys personally. Thank you. Thank you so much. We had a Kickstarter recently, as you well know if you've been listening to us. It was a graphic novel called Prison Witch, co-written by myself and my co-host / wife / collaborator, Amy, who she isn't going to be in this episode. She's just getting home from work and sorting through some things. But I just want to thank you. You know, we had a great campaign. We ran for about 2.5 weeks, and we raised, oh man, over $16,000. Our goal was $8,500. So we reached, I think 91% was the final percentage of our goal. And that is amazing. That is by far the best percentage-wise win of any of our Kickstarters. So thank you so much. We can't wait to make an awesome graphic novel for you. And just please know that we do not take this lightly. Your support means the world to us. Seriously. We couldn't do this without you in the most literal sense. You guys are making the book. The book exists because of you, so thank you. So, now, the man in the room, Joe Buscarino.
What's going on, Pat Shand?
How's it going, man?
Dude, thank you for having me here.
I'm glad to have you here. First, before we get into what it is that you do, I want to talk about how I know you, man.
Yo, dude, we go back a long ways now, man.
Years, right?
Yeah, several. I wouldn't say a decade. Oh, no.
Gotta be a decade, right?
A decade.
So I met you in what had to be about 2007 or 8?
2007. September 2007? Or
in college.
In college, yeah.
Yes.
My freshman year.
Malloy College is where we went. We
Rockville Center,
hail
New York.
from Rockville Center there. And we were both English majors. Well, no.
Oh.
Joe, you were English education.
I
Right?
was an English education major, much to the dismay of the English department.
I would always try to woo you over.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, Joe was big on poetry, writing, and we were in so many classes that I saw such an overlap that when I heard the education at the end of his major, it felt like a fucking knife in my ribs.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not trying to Caesar you here or anything, Pat, but I mean, I don't think I do it differently, but I definitely think that I use those English courses just, as a base for any education that I'm allowed to give to people.
Right. So, yeah, what is it that you do now?
Well, right now I'm an educator on Long Island, New
So
York.
it worked out.
It worked out. Don't let them tell you that dreams don't work out until those dreams become nightmares. Then you don't know what's going on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just really happy that I got the opportunity to use my degree. And right now I'm in year 3 of 4 out of a 10-year plan. And
Nice.
we'll see we'll see if they actually give it to me. It'll be fun to see.
And you know what? It's good then that I guess we didn't woo you over, right?
I mean, that's yet to be seen. But I'm also starting a podcast myself, which is called the Not Without Nuance podcast.
It's a great title.
It's a great title. And it's produced by a company called Gadfly Productions that I formed just earlier this year. So I'm happy to get this show on the road.
And when you were last over, we did a little pre-production meeting for this podcast, and you had ideas for your title, and you settled on Not Without Nuance, which was my preferred title. But the other one was good too.
Yeah, the other was amateur education. And in the state of New York, if you're going to have that as part of your production name, you need clearance by like the state.
For real?
For real, man. And I got a kickback on the company that I was using saying, yeah, you need this letter in order to make this your official LLC title. And I was like, all right, so we're going to take that in another direction because I'm not going to go through that bureaucracy.
What?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's good in the sense that you don't want education companies, quote unquote, scamming you.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
but I mean, they had amateur right in the title. So I'm not sure if, they were just like, all right, this is too blatant.
Right. Yeah, I guess that you shouldn't be able to. Hold on. these cats are going crazy.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, this is a staple of our podcast
Mm-hmm.
where every day you'll just hear some cat fuckery going on. But yeah, I think it's good probably that you shouldn't be able to use terms like that to like dupe the people.
Yeah.
And you weren't, but I'm sure some were.
I'm sure some people have tried that in the past.
Oh man, did you hear that thing with Dr. Malachi Brown?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god.
Enlighten me.
All right, this kid's a fucking badass to me.
Okay.
He's a swindler. He's this like high school level kid who opened up a fake doctor's office, took actual patients, and was caught. This motherfucker kept doing it though.
Wow.
And now he's in jail. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give it to the guy for accomplishing that.
Right?
Like, who did you scam? Like, besides all your patients, but
Yeah.
how were you able to
How?
put yourself in that position?
I don't know how, but you know what? It makes me think that if this motherfucker put this level of fuckery into actual work, he'd be amazing.
There's a phrase that I heard throughout my childhood saying, like, if you had half a brain, you'd be dangerous. Like, this kid clearly has some skills, but
Yes.
if he had a half a brain,
Yes.
he'd be we'd be in trouble.
If he had any common sense, he'd be fucking Heisenberg, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because man, he had an office, he had fucking patients who would come back to him after he was exposed. That shit is crazy to me.
I mean, I get sick just looking at WebMD. I mean, I don't even want to think about
Oh
trying to
god!
diagnose other
Oh
people.
my god! Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, we always say that the worst thing that you can do if you're sick is to look up your symptoms and just to find out yourself, because it'll just put you down a fucking rabbit hole. But personally, I do it every time.
Well, the information is out there, so
Yeah.
you want to know what this could possibly be.
Right.
But I mean, you're not a doctor.
No.
So why are you making that call for
Right.
yourself? You're just giving yourself anxiety when you should
Exactly.
be going to see somebody.
It's
who
so
knows.
hard not to, though, you know. And you do expect that the actual doctor to present information that isn't necessarily just there for you to find. Because, I remember, speaking of cats and all this shit too. Once I took one of my cats to the vet, and she pulled out a literal printed out Google search and explained that to me from there. And I was just like, I'm never coming back to this motherfucker right here.
I could have done this at home.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're supposed to just use your knowledge, right? So, speaking of using your knowledge, how have you formed your podcast, right? From your education, from your career, how much of you goes into this? And also, what is the podcast?
Well, the podcast just seeks to have different nuanced conversations with people who I find fascinating and people who we can learn from.
Yeah.
And I think you can learn from anybody. I think anybody who sits across from you knows something that you don't. And I think if you never have a conversation with that person or anybody for that matter, that you're cheating yourself. You're not able to grow and learn. And I think I'd like to see that, more available to people. I think there's not a lot of that out there now. Actually, you know what? I think there's an embarrassment of riches out there now, because you can find a podcast on literally anything,
Right.
and learn something from it. But I think that having a long form conversation with people that I know who have helped me grow and people who I learned from, I think giving them a platform to help shape other people is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The philosophy of it is kind of funny. I mean, even to consider it a philosophy, it's more like, the company's called Gadfly Productions, and that's from Socrates, where he said, I am the gadfly on like the horse's ass, where that it's just kind of like the tail like swats me away, but I bring attention to something that's already there, and then you make your own assumptions or conclusions based on what I'm just saying is fact.
So good, so nerdy.
So good, so
Love it.
nerdy, but I
Love
like
that.
I mean, even Tupac said it, man. Tupac was like, they got upset saying, I
shit.
created Thug Life. He's like, no, like, I didn't create Thug Life. I lived it. Like, this is what's out there. I'm a product of this.
Bringing that Tupac into this picture.
But
yeah.
he's bringing that to you now. He's like saying, this is what's produced me.
Yeah.
And if you can't look at it, or you're blaming me for what's produced me, then where are we getting here?
Man, the other night, I thought of Pac, and I just started playing all his songs. I was doing the dishes fucking crying.
Oh, man.
Like, picture me rolling, you know?
Dude, I mean, he could say, he could turn a phrase, even, like, the darker the flesh, the deeper the roots. Like,
Oh,
like
man. So good.
Keep your head up. It's just like,
So good.
it puts you, it puts you exactly in that moment, and you know exactly what he's saying, and he's really making that connection. So while, you know, other people say, you know, he wasn't as lyrically talented, the lyrics that he was able to produce cause such an emotion that you can't disqualify that ability.
I'm so glad that you bring this up, because that's one thing that, especially now, people say about Tupac. But, and also, just in comparison with Biggie. Biggie was more of a punchline bars kind of guy. But Tupac, I think that the reaction to Tupac about saying that he isn't as good of a lyricist, that to me just shows hip-hop's fascination with punchlines, because Tupac didn't have any punchlines frequently. But to me, he's as good a lyricist as Biggie, as the great lyricist, in a very different way. You know, like, he doesn't, he was more repetitive with his lyrics, but he has lines that you said that you remember in ways that you won't remember a punchline, right? Man, like, yeah, I don't think that any, I mean, I love Biggie. I love Biggie, but
I'm a fan too.
the songs don't make me fucking, like, in my feelings, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear that, but I think there's a market where you want to listen to music and you don't want to feel
Oh,
those
yeah,
feelings.
totally,
And I mean,
yeah.
and in that kind of environment, I think, you know, the rhyme scheme and, you know, what they're saying and the punchlines, I think that's what comes in, because you're like, all right, this is creative, I can get behind
sure.
this. And even though they're dealing with, you know, deep and dark matters, they're still there to find that humor or that turn where they're just like, I got you. And
Absolutely.
like, and you're just going to vibe for the rest of the track.
Yeah, I think that there's such a broad spectrum of what a good lyricist is, that I think that culturally we do look at it kind of narrowly, right? Where we look for bars and punchlines. I was just thinking that Drake, for example, right? He isn't often seen as one of the top lyricists, but to me, he's one of the best because of the way that the structure of his verses, he changes the rhythm of them consistently 4 or 5 times per verse, when most rappers will keep a rhyme structure per song. And the way that he changes it up is incredible. Where the drum hits, the way he rides the beat is crazy to me.
And I think, you know, that where Drake does that lyrically, I think you can expand that and say Kanye does that with the entire track and the entire song.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So
yeah, as
I
a
like,
producer, for sure.
right? But you could see how Drake has taken from that and plugged that into like the lyricist, as you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, hip hop.
So back to your podcast, though, right?
Yes.
What this makes me think of is this. Do you remember back in the day, the day of early 2017, where there was a conversation going on about how you shouldn't have a dissenting opinion on your platform, because then you're giving them your platform?
Yes, I remember
That's
that.
crazy to me.
Yes.
And just to bring it back to my guy Charlemagne, he got in trouble because he was he was gonna have Tommy Loren on his platform.
Okay.
And Charlemagne has been very vocally against Tommy Loren, and Tommy had Charlemagne on her platform, and they had a conversation where, to me, Charlemagne came out as the voice of reason.
And I think that was even earlier than 2017.
Yeah, it could have been 16.
2016,
Could have been
2015,
2016.
when she was, yeah.
And then Trevor Noah, of all people,
I remember this.
was also critiqued heavily for having her on his platform. When I think, to me, that any thinking person can tell someone who is a fraud from someone who is genuine, even if they disagree.
Yeah,
To me,
definitely.
Trevor Noah fucking swept Tommy.
And I think the people with, you know, pretty good bullshit detectors can pick that right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was very surprised at the idea that we shouldn't have someone that we can argue with on our platforms.
I think that's not only short-sighted, but I think that you need that. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, if you look at the media right now, and as an example, you say you have your left pundits and your right pundits, and there's really no middle ground. And on those shows, you're just getting self-service. You're getting lip service. Like, not that they're pandering, but it's like you're seeking this information from this point of view, and that's where you're going to go to get that point of view.
Right.
Now, if you take somebody who's, you know, from the other side and you put them on the same program, if you put it in a fair enough environment, I think that the conversation and the moment that those two are interfacing with each other, I think that leads to more growth as a whole. But I think if you're not allowing yourself to do that, the people who are criticizing that action are being short-sighted.
Right.
Because they don't understand that dialogue needs to happen, or this, you know, polarization, this left and right, is just going to keep perpetuating itself.
Right.
So I don't think that it's really fair to give those people slack, especially if, they're using their own platform to almost, say, welcome. Come on, I'm more than happy to sit down with you and talk about it.
Yes.
I think that's, often overlooked today.
Yeah, I think that what it is, too, is that people see a guest as a cosign, right?
Well, in a way, it could be, and I understand why people say that, because if you let, no press is bad, or no press is bad press. So even if you're getting slammed on the show, they say, yeah, okay, you gave her this platform, and look, the people who support her just support her even more here. But then you're saying, well, then where's your own audience? Your audience should say, no, it's good that this person is here, and he was able or she was able to defend their point of view.
Right.
And the people who are looking at that now, I don't think are acting that way. They're saying, why would you even let this person speak here? And I don't think that's constructive.
I don't think so either.
And I think what I would like to do is be constructive with my own podcast, and I think that's a goal that I strive to reach.
I like that because I think that people are seeing a guest appearance as a speech when it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And it isn't often in social media seen as a nuanced conversation, because on social media, you just blast out your opinion, you read headlines, and you move on with your life.
And I think that's another reason why a lot of people give the media slack on the television, because you have such a short window to do this, what is really almost like a profound thing.
Right.
And it's cheated by the amount of time that's given to it. So where you have, a 15-minute sit down, only 8 minutes is going to get aired, and it's going to be chopped up into 4-minute or 2-minute clips from there. And it's going to be disseminated like that. So you say that's really not a platform to do what a segment like that is intended to do.
That's why a podcast is so great, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the freedom of it. I mean, Dan Carlin said that, the quantity has a quality all its own. So even if you're reaching 5, 6, 7, 8 people, 800 people, 1,000, and then all the way up, you're still giving depth to the culture that's there. Right. And right now in the media and the main media, you don't have that depth of culture. And I think you're finding that more and more online and on these online forums. What
podcast drew you to this platform? I know that you're a fan of Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I mean, I think his liberty that he takes with his show, just willing to talk about whatever's on his mind, whatever he's reading, to inform himself even more, I think is a great learning tool. Yeah. So to see that, or to listen to that happening live, or listening it a couple of days later, you can track not only his growth, but your own growth toward that, pilot light. I don't know. Like, I don't buy everything Joe Rogan says hook, line, and sinker, but I don't buy what anybody says hook, line, and sinker. And I think he's in that same vein, and I appreciate those conversations that he has. Yeah. But I also like, Joey Diaz has got to be one of my favorite podcasts too, The Church of What's Happening Now.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, and it's more funny, but still he's not afraid to have those deep conversations. And with him, it's always a story, it's always an anecdote, and that's that wisdom. That's that wisdom. It's not like you're using your knowledge or your intelligence. He's like, no, I've lived through this. I'm using this as an experience, and I'm going to tell you how I heard it and how I learned it. And I said it on the first episode of my podcast, you learn the best way the hard way.
Yes.
And people don't let you do that anymore.
They don't.
No.
Yeah. I like to just dive into something, And I've listened to episodes of Joe Rogan where he's talking to someone, who I 100% on almost every conceivable moral level disagree with. But I want to hear that. I want to hear Joe engage. I want to hear what this person has to say, because I'm not scared of having my opinions changed.
Definitely.
Right?
Not.
And I think that I'm confident enough in my opinions that something I find disgusting at the start of a podcast, I'll still find disgusting at the end. Like the core of my being isn't going to change. I have what I see as what's right and wrong, as we spoke about a bit before the podcast. And but it's good to see everyone as a human being.
Yeah.
Because, man, this quote, fucking, all right. Erykah Badu, man. Did you hear about this recent controversy?
I haven't heard about this recent controversy.
She had a quote about Hitler, okay?
Okay.
And I think that celebrities should just stop talking about Hitler. But,
yes. Okay.
But
I mean, I think that's a safe publicity move.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. As we talk about Hitler.
Yes.
But she had this quote that people took way out of context, where she was saying about how we had to see him as a human, something like that.
Okay.
And people were like, no, he wasn't a human. He's a fucking devil.
I think the problem is that he's almost completely human. I think that's the error of the ways, isn't it?
The exact problem is that people want to separate themselves, that a human couldn't do those things. But a human did those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we dehumanize someone who's evil, then we remove our capability of evil.
Or being able to recognize that evil.
Yes.
And I think I was listening to a Jocko podcast when he was talking about man's search for meaning and Viktor Frankl's memoir. He was a psychologist, and he went through the concentration camps during World War II Germany. And he was talking about how everyday survival was the number one priority. And if you weren't actively trying to survive, the dehumanizing nature just killed your spirit. It killed you. It broke you. And he was talking about these these atrocities that he was going through. But these people would sneak in and say, listen, if you want to really survive this, you got to be ready to work. You got to show that, you're able to move, because if they don't and they pull you over, you're done.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying,
God
but it exists. And to deny the fact that it exists, and to not look at these dark moments and learn from these dark moments and recognize that they're there, then you're naive. Yeah. You're naive. And I think that's a part of wisdom, where you say, all right, I understand that I don't understand this. And by not looking at those things that you don't understand, you're willing to fall into any sort of trap that people are willing to set.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that the idea of removing the humanity from someone who's evil is the most dangerous thing that we can do, because we can be back there, and yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that got pretty deep there.
God damn.
But let's try and pull some light out of there for you, because try and pull some light out of there for you.
Actually, yeah. Let's take it in a very different direction.
Yeah.
And talk about Lil Dicky.
Lil Dicky? Is that my nickname? No.
So Lil Dicky, he's a rapper.
Okay.
You're a listener, right?
I've heard a few of his songs. I've heard a few of his freestyles, actually. I heard his freestyle on Sway in the Morning that I thought was pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. I thought it was lyrically,
yes,
just the way, like he said, I think he described it afterwards as like early onset dementia lines. It was like, man, where are you pulling these from? But they completely worked. And his British accent on
oh, what is that guy's fucking name? I know who you're talking about.
Westwood TV.
Tim Westwood.
Tim
motherfucking Westwood.
I thought that was hysterical.
Yo, that freestyle on Westwood was crazy.
And then
the hype freestyle.
Yeah. And then the Snoop Dogg song, the Professional Rapper.
So good.
The video concept was of that I liked a whole lot. So Lil Dicky. Let's talk about him.
He's great conceptually.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a bit of controversy right now.
Okay.
Over this. Lil Dicky put out a new song. It's the first single from his next album.
Okay.
It's called Freaky Friday.
Now, ignorant here, is that his first album or his second album?
It's his second studio album.
Okay.
He's done mixtapes before. Mm-hmm. He did one called So Hard. He did one that was just a song every Wednesday he dropped, and that was like a double mixtape.
Okay.
And now his first album was Professional Rapper, which had the song with Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
It had Save That Money. And now it's a new album coming out, no name yet, and the lead single is Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday.
The concept, because he is, again, a very conceptual guy. Uh-huh. The concept is that he and a much more famous and much better dancer, rapper. Well, he's not a rapper. He's a singer. He's rapped recently. He had a song with Joyner Lucas. But I'm all building to this to say that it's Chris Brown.
Okay.
So Chris Brown wakes up in Dicky's body. Dicky and Chris Brown's. And
just like the concept of a Freaky Friday
exactly.
kind of thing. Okay.
And when I first heard this, I was personally disappointed that it was Chris Brown, because I think that it's a great concept, because Dicky has this place in the rap game where he is seen as a joke rapper.
The funny type raps?
Exactly. But he's actually fucking dope.
Okay. on his merit.
Right. So, I thought it was a great concept because Dicky is seen a certain way, and the video it's so fucking funny because it starts with this guy walks up to him, and he's so excited to see him, and the guy's girlfriend is confused that Dicky's a rapper, and the guy's like, oh, he's like a real rapper, you know, and it's just Dicky is left thinking like, ugh, and then he looks to the TV, he sees Chris Brown wishing that he didn't have all this drama and celebrity stuff around him.
Okay.
And and so they wake up in switched bodies.
All right. You've hooked me, man.
Yes.
I'm curious to see.
And I've been very critical of the fact that we still celebrate Chris Brown because like I can't look at those pictures of Rihanna.
Okay.
And then just like listen to his music.
I hear you.
But then watching the video, it's so well done. It makes it very hard to hate him. And,
is he becoming a sympathetic character?
Well, no, not to me.
No, I mean in the video.
Yeah, because it's like it's hard not to see him as Dicky in his body.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Right. All right. So that's really the quality of where it comes in. Okay, I understand.
So it works in that way, but I do wish that it was a different person.
Right.
And on the other level, I watched it, enjoyed it, and felt like kind of nasty afterwards.
You need to shower because you enjoyed it?
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I'm looking, and Chris Brown's career is unaffected by that stuff in the past. Like, you might think that it's not because we're having this conversation right now.
Right.
But he's been on Nicki Minaj's songs. He's had successful albums ever since then. And what makes me wonder about Chris Brown is this. Because now you see people with allegations of abuse coming out, and their careers are pretty much over as soon as these allegations come out.
Right.
Chris Brown doesn't even deny what happened. There's picture evidence. It just happened a few years ago. So is it that time has passed and he's able to get quote-unquote redemption, or is it that it was a different time?
Well, I think it's a difficult subject to broach, but if I'm going to try and stay, consistent with my reasoning, I think him getting in trouble at the time was like him taking his medicine. So the fact of the matter is that, he got caught, he got in trouble, and it affected him at that point, allows him to, I guess, reap the successes now that he's had afterwards in that sense. And I mean, I can't justify that saying that that's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I can say that the allegations that come out years and years later, the fact that they were in such a positive light up until that point, that time that they could have said, no, I shouldn't be liking this guy is now, I can't believe that I liked this guy for so long not knowing what he did. So I think getting, here I see what happened. I can hate you in the moment, but like anything else, like with humans, like the time is just going to be a healer to sound cliche. But I have no opinion either way. Like, I mean, I really wasn't a fan before. I'm not really a fan now, so it's not something that I consume already. So it's not I can't say, all right, I'm not going to consume his music anymore. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting for me, and I want Amy here to talk about this too. So, yes, scoot in.
One microphone, chilling.
One microphone this time, yeah.
Hello, Amy.
My computer broke, so we only have the one mic. But here's what I want to ask you, Amy, because I think it's important to have a woman's perspective on this.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love Lil Dicky.
I love him too. And what I want to ask you is like, one, how does it feel? Because we've spoken about Chris Brown before, that we've been disappointed when artists that we've had have fucked with Chris Brown. But at the same time, if I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly comes on, I can't not sing that motherfucker. So
I can.
You can?
Yeah.
How?
And that was my preschool graduation song.
And she's biased and she can still not sing it.
So I want to ask you is when that song comes on Dicky's next album, which we listened to his first album a lot. Do you skip that song or what? You do?
Well, yeah, because it's just something that I do on the radio already. Like, no matter what other artists... Like, to me, I was just sad because I love Lil Dicky, and I feel like there's so many artists... I don't know, like, how many artists would be, like, down to work with him or whatever, but he's popular enough to where he could, like, choose other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if Snoop and
like,
Chris Brown...
It's like, if you were going to do a new comic, and then you had all these choices, and then you, like I hear or see Chris Brown without literally imagining him punching Rihanna in the face.
Same. Yeah.
So it's like R. Kelly is like kind of like a freak. And to me also, I don't know, it's like different if you're like, I know it's bad if you're like a pedophile and you're sexually attracted to younger ladies and stuff, but you're sick. But like to me, Chris Brown is more of a violent barbarian.
Yeah.
Not so much as like someone who's like sexually sick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like R. Kelly, I'm just like, he's so dumb. Yeah. But like Chris Brown, I'm like, he's fucked up. And it's still fresh enough for me. So like every time I do hear his song and like him on a song on the radio, even if I don't recognize the song at first and I like hear his voice, I'll just change it because that's like my stance. Also because I love Rihanna. So like it's sad because I really like Lil Dicky and I feel like he like could have chose someone else, and we did watch the video and it's like enjoyable, you know what I mean?
That's what I wanted
Which
to
is
ask
like a
you,
bummer.
Yeah.
But I can realize that, but I'm like, all right, I saw it once. I really don't like it. I don't know why he's still like able to make music this way and why girls still like fiend over him when you've seen the pictures are on Google. Yeah. It's like, it's not a mystery. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. Yeah. It's like, hello.
I do agree. And I find it difficult because there are songs that I love that have a Chris Brown hook. I'm just like, man, like why couldn't it have been
like that song "Supposed to Be" with Omarion? Damn, that song goes hard.
Yeah.
But I think Chris Brown is on that.
I don't even know.
And I haven't heard it in a while, I think, because of that.
But
I don't know if I'm wrong.
The reason that I bring this up, too, is because Joe and I are talking about his podcast. Mm-hmm. And on Joe's podcast, it's called Not Without Nuance. Mm-hmm. And he wants to have nuanced conversations. And I think that there's a lot of area to explore in disagreement. But I think that there's also a level where someone reaches a point where you kind of look at them and go, how... you know, like Chris Brown, for example, right? Like, could you, I think that I wouldn't not have Chris Brown on a platform to speak to, but I would ask him questions that he wouldn't like.
And it's
you
like,
know what I'm saying?
Like you were saying, he admit to it. So it's like, people have problems and stuff. It's just like, to me, I don't like the fact that he is still so successful. I think that like, if you make a mistake and you're that kind, like you shouldn't have that and be that way. Like it's just not, it doesn't add up to me. It's not fair. It's not right. He's not nice.
I'm a little speechless because I haven't really given a lot of thought to the subject, so I'm just trying to take it in for both of you.
Yeah.
And I think that you see this in sports as well. I think you see that in acting and media as well, especially, I mean, however many television hosts now come out with these sorts of things. And I think that him being caught when he got caught was needed to happen, but I think that almost has allowed him to move past it.
Right.
So, I mean, like I said, I'm not a consumer of his. I wasn't.
Like, has he written a song like about his, if he's like feeling regretful, if anything? Like, has he like?
You know, I have no idea.
Some sort of ballad or something. Like, I want to know how he feels about that to this day.
But you wouldn't forgive him, though.
I mean, no.
I wouldn't forgive him either. But I don't think that we have to, you know?
I don't think that you have to. And I think that, you know, you can't go back and change what was. Mm-hmm. And
like I said, like, people have problems. Like, I have anger problems. Yeah. Like, I've punched things, but I've never punched, like, another person. You know what I mean?
But, yeah, you're getting close.
But aren't we all?
And also, like, I'm not like a man against a woman,
right?
You know, like
oh no,
not to be like sexist about it, but it's like
no, I didn't even know that you were going there. No,
yeah,
no,
it's like how you talk about like pit bulls versus chihuahuas, sort of thing.
Yes,
like I get super mad and fiery and stuff, but like I couldn't do what Chris Brown did to Rihanna.
Oh hell
you know
no.
what I mean? Like that's more of like a victim and a culprit sort of thing.
Yes,
instead of like an equal, like, you know.
Yeah,
going at it,
right?
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's not mutual, and I think that the people who are like succumb to that, I think they have, and this goes back to what we were talking to earlier. It's like they almost can't conceive that, and they would think, why I wouldn't do that to anybody? How could somebody do that to me? And then you find yourself in that situation, and then it's awakening. You're like, oh shit, like this does happen now. Like now it's happening to me, and now how am I supposed to react in this situation?
I think to take it back to fucking Hitler, right?
Okay. Let's bring it all the way around.
Right.
Is that where you guys were at, or?
It got dark there for a moment.
Yeah, because we were talking about how Erykah Badu got in trouble for seeing the humanity in Hitler, when to me, Hitler being a human is the scariest thing about him, because that means that this shit could happen again.
Oh yeah, and a lot of like cult leaders and murderers idolize him.
Oh yeah,
so
they're just like his bitch ass.
They want to be.
So here's my thing. I think that the fact that to me, Chris Brown can have a dope song. I'm just not going to listen to it. I think that we can't pretend that someone who did something bad something fucking horrible
Is shitty at music
can't
now.
do something
Yeah.
good, right? So here's the thing. Say someone fell down in front of Hitler and Hitler helped them up. That doesn't mean that Hitler that doesn't take away what he did.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
That's
Yeah.
not even a drop in the pond of his fuck shit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Chris
It's like people are like, oh, he had like a pet cat or something. I'm making
Yeah.
that up. Or whatever.
Yeah.
He had a pet, so he's got it's like, so what?
Right. So I think that Erykah Badu pointing out that he's human doesn't even change a goddamn thing about how fucked up he was.
I mean, there's
No.
just
Yeah.
bad humans, unfortunately.
And the same thing about Chris Brown. Chris Brown, him having a dope song with one of our favorite rappers doesn't change
I don't
what
even
he did.
think he's as bad as Hitler. I just don't think
Oh,
he
no,
should
no.
be as rich and famous
No,
as
I'm
he
definitely
is
not
to
comparing him
Hitler.
to
Yeah,
Hitler.
no, let's get that clear. We're not
Just
comparing Chris Brown to
but
Hitler.
it is a good comparison, because it's like one or even a few good things for, it's like there is sort of like a point system of morality in a way, like a human, you know, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
It's hard.
Catholicism, venial sins, if you're going to go there, it's like, yeah, you have sins that are bad, and then you have
Right.
the mortal sins. Like, no, you can't turn back
Right,
from
like
those.
the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. So where you say that
always
there's a
levels.
scale of that morality, and I mean, it's difficult, especially with the media coverage today, to not try and group all these people into that bad morality character, because they are bad morally, they're reprehensible, but some of them even more so than the others. So then you say, okay, where do they fall on that scale?
Yeah.
And
And are they following, or are they making this stuff up themselves? It's like,
Yeah. No, because there are followers. Yeah, there are. I mean, right now there's so much tribalism online, so much. And those people who always fall in with a certain line of thinking tend to gravitate toward charismatic leaders.
yeah,
But oh man, I had a good point. Oh yeah, this is not even a good point. But speaking of mortal versus venial sins, right?
okay.
Imagine there are religions out there, and imagine believing this, that every sin is the fucking same.
I could almost see where they're coming from when they say all sin is the same, because you say, all right, can you speed in a 25-mile-an-hour school zone? Yeah. Can I go 30 or 26 miles an hour? Yeah. Is that still breaking the law? Yeah. But I'm not going 50.
yeah.
But you're still going over the speed
And it's
limit.
the same law. you're
Right?
breaking.
But just to go in
No,
there,
yeah, no. Let's keep it going.
driving, say, 70 in a 25 is fucking much worse than driving 26.
But,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
of course. But
not that-
to
yeah.
that standard where you say, all right, this is the standard that we're going to set, it's still in that same realm. But that's why penal codes are different. You're only getting, a fine and,
Right.
a
Man.
ticket, or you're getting jailed for life.
But some people think that taking the Lord's name in vain, goddammit, is the same thing as murdering someone. That's crazy to me.
I don't think they really even think that. I just think that, like, they're just, like, too stressed out to, like, use their brains. So they just, like, sin, organize it into the sin cabinet, go.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even think about it. If they were to think about it, they would much easier do something than like that. It's like,
Well, they say the better that you are at religion, the better you are at skating around their rules.
right.
So,
The better you know the rules, the better you can break them.
yeah. I mean,
I just want to go in front of someone who thinks that and just fucking murder someone.
what?
You know what I'm
And then
saying?
they'll be like, Jesus Christ. And then they'll be
Yeah, exactly.
and then they'll
And
be
you'll
like,
be like,
see you in hell.
Man.
That's a really, really bold sabotage that you're working on
That was
there.
fucking alley-oop right there. That was good.
That was good. Oh, yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Karen.
Oh, yeah.
She's good with
Amy's
that.
a big fan of the podcast, My Favorite Murder.
Is it about murder?
It's a true crime podcast.
Okay,
yeah.
there you go.
So each episode they talk about a true crime case or like a serial killer, and they have all the deets about it. But the best part is they like react to it,
Okay.
and they're from the same place as me. So it sounds like just talking to my friends.
Given that local love.
They're like from LA. So
There you
it's
go.
like, yeah.
But yeah, I would love to have someone on that we disagree with a lot. Like, say right now we had someone here who was totally pro Chris Brown, right? Like he's redeemed himself, etc., etc., etc.
Well, I would ask
Everybody
this.
makes mistakes.
Well, like you say, like, is there a ballot? Is there something that you could point to say, yeah, okay, he's done this, he's
Has
done
he
this,
thought
has
about
done
his
this.
actions and shit? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not scared to have the conversation and disagree. I'm not even scared to fucking argue.
Oh, no.
I think if someone here was just totally pro Chris Brown, I think it might be an argument, and that's fine. I would like to argue.
Right, and that opportunity to argue then, well, I would like to argue constructively, but but I don't think it's a bad thing to agree to disagree.
Right.
And I think that, I'm able to hold two ideas in my head without saying, all right, I subscribe to this one or that one. And I don't think that's really where our country or our state of consuming media is at.
That's where like the problem is, I feel, is that people they feel like they have to like choose a side, and then they'll just toss aside anything else.
Yeah, no,
You know?
because it's always better to be on a side, right?
Yeah,
it's always
I know.
better to have somebody standing there with you and to say, and
Yeah.
even if you don't subscribe to the same things, you're like, well, safety in numbers, but you got to stand out sometimes, even to say, hey, I don't agree with any of this.
Absolutely, because conversation is not cosigned.
No,
It's
definitely not. That's why it's a dialogue. You need two willing participants.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that you and I disagree with each other on certain things, right?
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't assume to like everything you like or vice versa.
Exactly. And, well, all right, so, extreme disagreement.
Okay.
How would you debate? Well, assuming you believe a certain
Oh yeah.
thing,
So why don't you ask me? Yeah.
how would you debate a flat earther?
Okay.
Because
A flirter.
Well,
one of my best friends growing up
yeah.
is a flat earther.
Okay.
And he and I don't even speak anymore. Well, not even because of flat earth. But
For other various
yeah,
things.
He went so hard down the conspiracy angle, he couldn't even speak about anything else. So it became every conversation was an argument because he wouldn't let shit drop, and I couldn't do it. But if he wanted to go on the podcast, I would have it out with him for sure.
Okay.
So here's
So if I were to
an
debate,
invite.
yeah, there you go.
Right.
There's your invitation.
But for you, how would you debate a flat earther?
Well, I guess I would ask those people how living your day-to-day life has changed knowing that the earth is allegedly flat. Like, how does this information help you in any way? Right? Like,
That's a good question. I never thought about that. Like, what joy do you find in this information?
or not even what joy, but like, now that you have this information, what's changed? Like, all right, the earth is allegedly flat. Are you still, flying to one place or another?
Yeah.
Like, has that changed? No. Does GPS still work? Yeah, I found my way to the supermarket this morning. Okay. Those things suppose that the earth is round, right? Okay, and they still function. So how is this really changing anything?
These motherfuckers have an explanation for everything,
That's why it'd be interesting to have them on.
Yeah, like quote unquote explanation.
Right.
Like that shit is not.
But if they were just happy enough to say, all right, well, I don't believe that, and nothing that you say is going to change my opinion of that, and they're willing to answer my questions about it,
Yeah.
and be okay with the fact that I'm not going to change my mind,
Yeah.
then hey, they're here to have a conversation.
Absolutely.
They're teaching us how to do it again with something that's that doesn't mean anything, that hasn't changed anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. No, that's good.
It's a positive spin.
I would love to hear that. Yeah, we should work on getting a flat earther on this bitch.
Why not? Why not? Why the
I
hell
know
not?
one too in this town.
You did? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man.
Well, I hope
the
they
conversations.
would be. I hope they would be gracious enough to accept your invitation.
Yeah, right.
Yo, this person also believes that certain celebrities have been replaced with clones.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And
that Katy Perry is a clone.
There's
Dude,
like,
totally possible.
like a video
Totally
that we watched
possible.
where she like quote unquote is like glitching.
Uh-huh.
But she really is probably just dehydrated or something and like fainted.
Okay.
But her eyes are like going a little wonky, and it's like, bro.
Maybe she got hit in the head.
That's happened to me when I smoked too fat a bowl when I woke up. Like, chill. Like,
Yeah.
All right.
it's like she's not a robot. Okay, she's regular.
Yeah, people think that Eminem has been replaced by a clone. And it's just like, just because he doesn't have bars like he used to, doesn't mean...
his
He's
lack of
getting
performance
older.
now.
Yeah.
No, like I said,
The
like,
hashtag
all right,
guy
let's say that's true. All right, what's changing? How does that affect you?
What's changing, man, is that the government is replacing us with people that they want in their place to lead.
Well, I mean, that's happening right now in your bodies right now,
They're
just by
lying
what you're
to us.
consuming. So
Yeah.
That's
how
true.
is that any different?
I heard that by the time that we die, none of our cells are the same since...
They regenerate every 7 years, I think. Your
That's
body
crazy.
regenerates
Yo.
every cell every 7 years.
That's
You
crazy.
could check me. You could check me on the Google, but I think that's correct.
I read a really cool article along those lines where there was these two twin brothers for what's it called? Identical twins.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is an astronaut and went to space for a few months. And then he came back and his DNA was genetically changed
Yeah.
and even looks a little different than his identical twin now.
Well-
it just like reorganized his molecules or something.
I know for a fact that when astronauts go into space, they lose a lot of their calcium in their bones through their urine because there's no need for strong bones in space. And if that happens, over the course of a very short amount of time there, how quickly does the human body have the propensity to evolve in any sort
no
of situation?
way. Yeah, it takes so long.
Well, but you just said it really doesn't.
That's
because
true,
identical
because
twin.
months.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Let's start a colony on Mars.
That's crazy.
Well, we won't be recognizable in a generation or two, and we'll be the new Martians. we were Martians before it was cool.
How soon do you think that we're going to be on Mars?
In my lifetime, for sure. If I was a betting man, I'd say you're gonna have at least one or two crapshoots where it's not gonna work.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Motherfucker's going to die.
and I mean, it's scary to say that, but I mean, if we can be 100% successful on the first go around,
Damn, yeah.
how many times has that actually happened over the course of human history? Yeah. So I think, barring a few setbacks, 2035, and you can mark me down. You can take the over, you can take the under.
2035.
2035, I think, will be at Mars.
Pretty good number. I'm trying to think if I agree or disagree, if I think it's going to be sooner or later. I'm going to say not sooner, but 2035 sounds pretty decent.
Like, if you were playing The Price is Right, would you give me that 2034, or would you go 2036?
I would go 2035-01.
Oh, you would narrow it down to the month. You'd say, no, it's going to be this
gonna be
day.
fucking- man, on Price is Right, when someone does that shit, they're such a fucking asshole.
Oh, you hate them. As you're watching
Oh,
that,
yeah.
you hate that person on the
Oh
inside.
yeah, it's such a power move too, though, And when they get it, ooh, the person's
Salty.
so fucking pissed.
Oh, yeah. You
Like,
can see it on their
you
face.
Son of a bitch.
So are we going to watch this video, or are we not?
Oh, Dickie?
Yeah, are we... all right,
No,
I'm
no.
going to do... All right,
Yeah.
we're just...
Yeah, just
Okay.
because one, I agree with Amy in that I've seen it and I'm good on it, you know?
It is a cool concept.
yeah,
I
no.
remember that movie. I liked it.
What I think is, imagine it was Drake.
Yeah.
That would
And I'm saying, he would be down, Drake, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
The one thing that Drake couldn't do in the video is the dance moves. I love Drake's fucking
Drake's
dad.
a great dancer.
Dad
as is,
dancing.
yeah.
Yeah. But he isn't Drake's dancing is cool to me because, I could do that.
Yeah,
It's
his
so-
rounds
it's
so
is
approachable.
choreographed,
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
Drake-
His is choreographed and, practiced.
Man, I fucking love Drake.
That Hotline Bling.
Speaking of videos, have you seen God's Plan? Drake's video?
Yeah, man.
I love
yeah,
that shit.
I did.
I love that shit.
I clicked on some clickbait was Drake should run for the mayor of Miami, and here's why. And I saw it, and I was like, that disclaimer on the front, my little brother came up to me and was like, you got to check this out. And this part, he's like, the video is great, but he's like, this part just shows the flagrancy of, people not willing to do this sort of stuff. He's like, we spent 900,000 whatever on a record. Psst, don't tell the record company.
Yeah.
And he did that with it, and I think that's much more constructive than any kind of video honeys that would be in any other video, right?
It's true. Mm-hmm. It's true. No,
But I think
I'm
he's
with
grown
you.
with that. I think he's grown. I don't think he could have done that with
What about those video honeys that want a job, though?
I
Yo,
think
get
there
your
are so
money.
many
Yeah,
I
guys.
mean, although you can.
I love that video.
No
That was such a
judgment
good
here,
video.
man.
Oh, speaking of video honeys, I didn't speak about this on the podcast, but the shit is so funny. When I went to the building where the Breakfast Club is recorded, the first celebrity I saw walking out, it's amazing that I saw her walking out because of who she is. Do you know who Bernice Burgos is?
I don't believe so.
Bernice is one of the most famous video girls of all time.
Okay.
Video vixens. Video vixens. So
there's a proper terminology.
Pat basically watched her leave.
Okay.
As
Basically.
the guys behind the counter recognized her from behind.
Oh, wow. And they waited for her to turn around.
Right.
Man, that shit was funny. But yeah, we aren't seeing as many famous video vixens as we used to.
I think it's like the form has changed. Yeah, I recognize her.
Oh yeah, Amy just took out Bernice on her phone
From my DMs, just playing.
right. But yeah, I think that videos used to be kind of standard. Like you would have your standard rap video where it's champagne's popping, it's video vixens, and then maybe on BET Uncut you get like a little bit of a nastier version, right? But now I think the videos are getting pretty creative. Like God's Plan was amazing. The new Migos video featuring Drake, which was old school vibe, it had Drake in this like Jerry curl. It was shot like it was in the 70s. That shit was so funny.
That's like that Stranger Things VHS.
Oh man, yeah. Joe came in and he was looking at my DVD collection, and he was shocked to see a VHS tape of Stranger Things, and then so happy to see that it was a DVD styled as a VHS.
Wasn't that cool
genius.
how they decorated
yes,
that?
Yes, definitely. And it even had like that sticker, like that $3 sticker that you see in like, you know, those garage sales where you're like, oh my god.
So I love
that was very creative, very creative.
Love the creativity. But yeah, I'm excited for your podcast.
I'm excited. So you're invited whenever you'd like to come on down.
I would love to come on down.
We'll definitely have you on. And I'll just give you that social media info. That Instagram is Gadfly Productions.
Spell it out for the people.
GADFLY Productions.
Nice.
And then the Twitter handle is @Gadfly. Same letters. Prod. PROD for Productions 101. Because this is a 101 course we're giving over here. It's for everybody. It's your 101 course.
Are you sure that you aren't trying to swindle people with the education thing?
Well, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. And I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. So I should have no problems there.
So last question about the podcast.
Man.
Who are you going to have on?
Anybody and everybody. Right now I have an Ecuadorian poet lined up. His name is Dr. Alex Lima. So hopefully I'll be recording that sometime next week. I got my a cousin of mine who just finished shooting a movie, and he's putting it around to these different film festivals. Saw nothing but rejection so far, but you know, I hope that changes for him.
That's
and
the game, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, man. How many times could you hear the word no until you get a yes? That's really, you know, how you got to judge it.
I can't even begin to think of how to make a movie. That's great.
And he produced it a lot with himself, another guy. I'm gonna have another gentleman named Pat he started a podcast called 2 Minutes for Instigating, I believe. So I hope to have him on. Nice. And you know, local artists, local musicians, local doctors, you know, activists.
You should try to have Dr. Malachi Brown in this bitch.
I mean, if you're listening, Dr. Malachi Brown, come on down. You're more than welcome. We're gonna have Dr. Jeff Massey coming on there.
Dope.
Yes. Nice. Me too.
Yeah, man.
We have Massey here too.
Oh, that guy's a genius.
Yes. I can't wait for that nerdcore book that he's been. Oh, I don't know if we can even talk about that nerdcore book. Or did he post that?
You know what? I think he posted it. I'll ask him though, and if not, I'll bleep the shit out.
Okay, good.
I love to bleep shit.
He's a good editor. He's getting really good at this.
Amy was talking about this one photographer, and because it was a personal story, we had to bleep his name.
Okay.
And I just love that shit. It was so funny.
I just love that shit.
But speaking onto that too, other guests, man, I got a merchant marine that I'm gonna have on again. I did a pre-podcast with him. I'm glad to have him on. Just talked to my first episode that should be coming out this week with Kevin O'Braskin. He does brewery work up in Massachusetts. Yeah. So
nice.
You can learn something from anybody. And if you think you have something to teach somebody, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me through those social media platforms, and I'd love to have you down.
So listen, ask all your guests about Hitler get him in some fucking trouble.
Okay. Well, I hope that hasn't gotten me in trouble now. But I think
and how they see humanity in Hitler as the opening question.
I think there's a Chuck Klosterman book that he wrote, and I think this is from like Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. But he had like an interlude where it was like a 12-question survey. He asked every chick, and one of them was like who is more impressive, like Albert Einstein, who you know, or a magician that can do 3 or 4 tricks, but they're actually defying the laws of physics. Like they can actually move something from one hand to another without but actually are doing it. So I thought that was a good question.
I come down hard line magician there.
Well, I mean, is this like a trick question? Like, is he setting you up? Like, do you actually believe this stuff exists? Or, or like, can you see that? Like, it's a really shitty interview question because it works so well.
Like, what kind of person are you?
Yeah,
do you believe in magic?
Yeah, it's one of those. So, like, where it's brilliant in a sense, like, you know, I can come down on hard on the magic side. Like, maybe that's what he's testing you to see. So who knows?
Oh, fuck yeah, I come down hard on the magic side.
I do too.
Prison Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, Prison Witch. Thank you guys so much. We have Amy here now, and I started the podcast off, Amy, by just thanking the people for supporting Prison Witch.
That was so awesome. Thank you so much. Pat cut his beard off live.
Oh yeah, I trimmed my beard one
it was like a
stroke of
film.
scissors for every $10 pledge, and in the last 20 minutes?
40
minutes. Yeah.
He was going in. He was like,
yeah.
I mean, talk about sacrifice for your work, man.
Right?
There you go.
Gotta do it.
Good thing it grows back.
So to summarize here, Prison Witch successful. Chris Brown, not gonna really fuck with him.
Not the best, you know.
Not the best guy.
But not the worst, because there's Hitler.
Hitler was a human being. Doesn't make him not the fucking worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Lil Dicky, love you. Maybe you could have picked Drake.
Just saying.
Joe, got a podcast coming out. Not Without Nuance.
Super stoked on that.
Listen to it, you guys.
Yeah.
Follow him on the platforms that he mentioned. And our theme music is written by Amy Shand. This has been the Space Between podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, the podcast app, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Eventually. I'm kind of fucking up on YouTube, you guys.
Oh.
It's just so long. It takes so long to upload.
I know.
Yes.
But eventually.
Because they're longish episodes, so it's like...
Yeah, they are. Follow our social media at Space Between Ent on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you want to have your questions answered, which we didn't do this time because we have a guest. Normally, we have a little Q&A sesh. You can follow us or hit us up there or email us at spacebetweenent@gmail.com. So again, thanks for listening. And bye you guys.
Adios.